Hmm. Oh. Oh, hi there. Welcome to the Black Sails wrap-up party. I was just reading Treasure Island like a man of culture. But seriously, welcome guys to the Black Sails wrap-up video. We're going to talk all things Black Sails. We're going to talk about the ending. We're going to talk about how it relates to Treasure Island and what could potentially happen in the future if they do decide to come back together and do a Treasure Island rendition with this actors and this writing team and all that kind of stuff. I'm also going to look at some of your comments and questions that you led on the last video of the Black Sails reaction and review series. All that good stuff coming up in this video. Now, in relation to Treasure Island, yes, I bought the book, but it only arrived a day ago and I had to work yesterday, so I haven't actually read it yet. But what I did do was the next best thing, I think you'll all agree, and went and watched Muppets Treasure Island. I also did look up a few details about the Treasure Island story and thinking about how that might all fit together with a Black Sails continuation version of that story, because I think there are things that they would probably change in order to keep it flowing with the TV show and the story it tells, and also just for certain payoffs to work in a way that I think would be satisfactory, so we say. I want to go through that first and sort of talk about how I think they might go about doing it. So spoilers for Treasure Island ahead if you've never read it or seen any version of it and you want to just skip ahead to when I get into sort of theories and looking at comments and all that sort of stuff. Please feel free to do that. But for right now, I just want to talk about the Treasure Island of it all. First things first, Billy Bones is killed very early on, or dies very early on, I should say, in Treasure Island. And I think that's sort of the first big difference, because he's hiding out and he's paranoid of the one-legged man who's going to be coming for him, but ultimately he sort of comes across as a sort of pathetic and you kind of feel sorry for him kind of vibe that's coming from that character, which I think could work in the context of the Billy Bones we have from Black Sails. If you have him X amount of years older and he's just sort of living in his regrets of certain choices that he has made, and now he's constantly looking over his shoulder, that would absolutely work in the context of Black Sails. It would be interesting if we see how he gets off the island that he's stranded on, but obviously he finds the treasure's location, and that's how he draws up a map to do it, because obviously Flint doesn't draw the map unless, I mean, this comes into the theory stuff of things, unless Flint actually is dead on the island and he made some sort of rudimentary map and Billy finds the body and the map. But I feel like that would be too much of a this is what happened, and I don't think they would want to ruin that with a rendition of Treasure Island. I think they would still want to leave that ambiguous. So I feel, my gut feeling would be that they would get Billy Bones to discover the location of the treasure somehow, but he doesn't feel like he can have it because it would just put too much of a target on his back, and he just leaves it on the ground but decides to do a map to sort of lead to his location. That's the sort of the best thing I would think that they would go with, and then somehow he gets off the island and we'd sort of seal that. I think that would be sort of the cold open if they were to do like a Treasure Island mini-series or movie with these cast members. We then would sort of skip ahead, I suppose, and we'd meet like Jim Hawkins and all that stuff. We'd introduce it, and Billy would be, like I said, pathetic, just living in fear, and you kind of feel sorry for him because he maybe has some regrets. Maybe he has some regrets about the choices that he's made. But one of the big differences I think they would probably make is when Billy dies, I feel like there would be ways that they would incorporate Flint into their version of Treasure Island, because I don't think they would want to leave the actor out of it. They would want to involve him somehow, and I think the best way they would probably go about doing it is either sort of dream nightmare sequences or like not like a force ghost, but like Billy, John Silver like seeing like either the angel devil on their shoulder or Flint, and feeding into that a little bit. Like he would be like almost like a hallucination or something along those lines, something to represent the turmoil that might be going on in their heads. And I think like that'd be the way that they might bring Flint into it and have the actor there as a part of the story, and also to keep perpetuating that what actually happened at the ending kind of vibe. So I feel like we'd probably have some sort of scene maybe between Billy and this force ghost version of Flint, and then when Billy is given the black spot before his death, I think they would probably have, I know this would go against kind of how Treasure Island is set up and how you meet John Silver originally. I do feel like they would have Silver deliver the black spot to Billy, just because I feel like they would want to have that confrontation between the two of them, because I think the last time we see Billy and Silver together is when Silver is on the ship saying, I'm going to go kill Flint. And I think that's the last they really see of each other or interact with one another. So I think like they would want to have a confrontation between the two. They would want to have that conversation between the two. And so I do think they would change it to that somehow. Doesn't mean Jim Hawkins has to see Silver at that point. So you can still have like him meeting him later on. It's just that I do fundamentally believe that they would want to have Billy Bones and John Silver on screen together and to have that moment and to put a cap on their relationship. And then from there, you know, it more or less just be Treasure Island as we know it to be. John Silver has sort of struggled to move on with his life in the way that at the end of Black Sails he says that he would, and just like Flint predicts, he can't escape it. The hunger for that gold, for the sense of adventure, all of that stuff would come flooding back to the surface because, like I said, it isn't enough. That, like, he's saying that Marty will be enough for him. He'll be able to step aside and just go live a normal life, but clearly that isn't the case, and you can have him wrestling with those demons, as I say, through the power of Force Ghost Flint or nightmares or something like that to sort of build all that up. And what was interesting whilst watching Muppets version was that I could kind of see, like, within Tim Curry's performance, I could kind of see Luke Arnold, like a grown-up, older Luke Arnold in that performance. Because what's really good, I mean, this is just a review of the Muppets version of it now, but what's good about the John Silver in that is that he is the antagonist, he's the villain, but you do get a peek behind the eyes. You can see that there is a good person in there somewhere, and I think ultimately that's what the Treasure Island continuing on from Black Sails would be for John Silver. It'd be the idea of how far has he fallen, is the good man that he came to be still in there somewhere, and the things that he holds dear still in there somewhere, like his love for Marty, for the love of protecting the people he likes. And you know, that's a moment in the Muppets one where I don't know because I haven't got this far in the book yet, obviously, that when Silver protects Jim Hawkins from his mutinous pirates, and I assume that must be in the book, but you can see that moment of there is a good person there somewhere. It's just buried underneath all of this other stuff that is piling on top of him. And I think Luke Arnold's version of Silver would absolutely fall into that, like that idea of conflict going on inside of him. Ultimately, I do think the Black Sails Treasure Island would more or less be Treasure Island. It would just have these added bits of flavour to help link it between the TV show and the original story. And I believe the creators have said, although not maybe definitively, that they kind of looked at Treasure Island as a story that might have been told about these characters by other people. But I know they've also said they're not dismissing the idea of maybe 10 years later we get everyone back together to do Treasure Island. And frankly, yes please. It feels like everyone has an ending in the end of Black Sails, other than Billy and John Silver. It does feel like there's an ambiguity to both of them. Like we don't really know what Marty and Silver's relationship is at the end. We don't know what really is going to happen to Billy whilst he's stranded on that island. We just kind of know that maybe Treasure Island is somewhere in their future, and that would answer the questions. So I would like to see how they would go about answering those questions in their version of the story. But please do in the comments let me know what you think they might change about the original Treasure Island in order to fit in around the Black Sails telling of it. Personally, for me, as I say, I feel like they would find a way to incorporate Flint into it in some way. I do feel like they would have a confrontation between Billy and Silver somehow, and there would be other kind of links. Like they might find ways to bring in other characters. Like I feel like Marty is a potential who could be brought over into the Treasure Island in some way, or you know, there's all sorts of things they could do in order to make their rendition of Treasure Island feel like their rendition that fits within the story that they were telling. So I would love to hear what other people have to say about that. But it is just interesting to think about, I think. I feel like there is so much room of opportunity to bring this cast over and to do Treasure Island and have fun with it, essentially, and just do a good version of it. Now, let's talk about the actual show that we've spent almost a year or so going through together, Black Sails. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that ending. Let's talk about how just goddamn good the whole show is at building its characters and everything, and the whole thing. Now, without a doubt, I will say this, that I think Black Sails is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. It is criminal. It is criminal that it isn't as mainstream or popular. Yeah, it's just I cannot fathom how it hasn't. Thank God that people keep the conversation going with this show. Like, ever since starting doing this reaction series to it, I have been telling people in my personal life, you have to go and watch this show. If you're like struggling to find something to watch at the minute, if there's nothing that's appealing to you, go and watch this show. You won't regret it. So thank God the people who do watch it continue to spread the word, because my God, does it deserve more attention than what it gets. I mean, online I see people who absolutely love it, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to transfer into any kind of mainstream, which is a real shame. I will continue to be baffled by that until it happens, god damn it. The reason being, it's one of my favourite shows, is that yes, you have the spectacle, yes, it gets the pirate nature of it all across, like you have these big sweeping epic moments, they capture all that in the production value, and you definitely see the show sort of improve as time goes along in terms of production value and epic scale and naval battles. Like, I remember when I first started doing the series, I was like, I wonder how they're gonna deal with like ship to ship battles and all that kind of stuff. And then frankly, as the show went on, I became so much more invested in just the character beats of the whole thing that my desire for all of that just kind of swept away. But when it started happening, I was like, Jesus Christ, they really went for it. Like I was so like surprised pleasantly, and like it just blew me away. Like, I wasn't expecting them to go to the levels in which they do for certain sequences. Like Charlestown in particular was incredible, and then there's various different ship battles that they pull it all off, but it was like icing on the cake at the end of the day. Like, they didn't have to go to this much effort to make it look and sound and feel as good as it does. Because frankly, all the character stuff is already doing all the heavy lifting for the show to be entertaining and engaging. That was literally, to say, icing on the cake, that we got all of that on top of it. Like, for instance, that the final episode, the big sort of big epic wide panning shot of Billy and Flint fighting on the masts, like that's like burned into my brain. Like, it's such a moment for so many reasons, and not only because the shot looks really good and the scale of it is really good, but it's that confrontation has been building for a long time, and to finally have the two of them having it out in such an epic and cinematic way was like really earned emotionally, let alone like how they went about filming it. But like I say, the standout of this show for me is just character motivation, character exploration, and how they propel the story forward. And there is a story. There is the search for the Urca de Lima gold and hiding it and building up Nassau and all of that stuff, and the threat of the Spanish invasion and the English like trying to regain control, and all of this stuff is going on, and it's interesting. It's a good driving force to keep everything moving forwards and to have the characters interacting in certain ways and to push forward with their motivations. But like I say, the true like gem in the crown of Black Sails is purely just good character work. And as the story's there, but I'm so much more invested in just how these characters are moving through those events rather than the events dictating what the characters are doing. And it definitely feels like it gets to the point that the characters, their motivations and their choices are really the driving force for certain events. Like, certain events would not unfold the way they do unless the characters act upon them in the ways that they do. Ultimately, you feel so connected. Like, there's so many characters in the show who I've rooted for and then not rooted for and then rooted for again. And like, it's insane how a show can pull that off, where traditionally in a TV show, even a really good TV show, you may have one or two characters that you really root for. You want to see everything come up good for them, and you sort of are like, I don't know about that person. That person I just do not like at all. And, that's fine, it works. But there are straight up antagonists in Black Sails where at moments I'm like, oh man, I hope something good happens for them. Which is a really hard thing to do, and to make an audience member care that much about everyone involved, that even when an antagonist, even at the peak of when you don't like them, gets killed or whatever the case may be, you still feel like, god damn. So yeah, it's truly been a magic show to go through, and just to see all of that unfold. But now let's get down to the sort of nitty gritty of the ending, what it means, theories, your comments and stuff and questions. Let's get into all of that and see where we go. So the ending, what does it mean to me? What did I get from it? How has it sat with me once I've sort of let it go for a moment, and just where am I at with it all? Firstly, I love the ambiguity of it, because it perfectly plays into the whole idea of storytelling, and not only it's like a meta thing in terms of the characters taking what they want from that ending, but also the audience members taking what they want from that ending. And it's just like it almost feels like a big metaphor for storytelling as a whole. And I also will say at this point, before we get into the Flint Silver part of it, that I think ending on Jack and Anne and the flag was the perfect way to end it. Not only because obviously you have the flag there, the thing that the Jolly Roger, the thing you just associate with pirates, blanket statement pirates, but also ending with two of the characters who are actual historical figures, and that naturally gets you thinking about the stories that have been told about those actual real people, and how could those stories have been changed? How could those stories have been manipulated? How were those stories told by the winners of the stories that they were involved in, and all of that stuff. And then also with the introduction of Mark Reed, who is obviously a female pirate who was up there with Anne Bonny, and there's a history there with that, and obviously a history of Jack Rackham. And I felt like it was a truly a good way to make you think about not only storytelling, but also storytelling in actual history, and sort of think about the idea of how history is told via stories and stuff. Obviously, there are things in history that are concrete fact. It's not asking you to oh, so history's been lying to me the whole time. But I think it might be asking you to think about people, like think about them on a personal level as people. Yes, you can hear the stories, these true stories of events that unfolded, but it's really hard to know the actual person on a like if you were standing in front of them and having a conversation with them, and what kind of person they may come across to you as via those stories. And to end on that kind of note, I thought was kind of pitch perfect, because it plays into the themes of the entire show, and also, as I say, gets you thinking about the idea of the stories of actual history. But enough about all that. You want to know Flint and Silver, that whole thing, what I think about that, and obviously a lot of your comments and questions and stuff come from that moment. So first things first, the ambiguity of it I loved, plays into the storytelling thing. Where do I fall on that ending? Did Silver kill him, or did he capture him and deliver him to Hamilton, or does it really matter? I think the important thing is that we don't actually know. I think that's the most important part of it. And it's more a case of what you choose to believe more than anything. Now, personally, I choose to believe that Flint was captured and taken to Hamilton. I don't know why I choose to believe that. I don't think I could really properly explain it. I think it comes down to, I want that guy to be happy. At the end of the day, I want him to have found his peace, which also could be translated to him finding Hamilton in the afterlife. And, there's obviously so many ways you can read into that, but I feel like I choose to believe that Flint was able to go and retire, even though, as I said in the reaction, it still kind of sucks, because he's retiring under guard, tucked away in a part of the world where no one else can see him and his true self, and that kind of sucks. But at least he gets to be with Hamilton and all that stuff. So that's sort of where I fall in terms of what I choose to believe. And I think the show does a very good job at purposely leading enough evidence for both sides of the argument. Like, obviously, the thing that happens when Silver's there with the woods, we cut away and the birds fly away, and just like to insinuate a shot was fired, the birds heard it and got startled. Then also the way that he is delivered to Hamilton on that plantation there is very dreamlike. The colour grading is very different to anything we see in the show, but also at the same time, the colour grading is exactly the same in the cold open when Silver has sent someone there to find out if Hamilton's there or not, and we don't get an answer to that question, which is important because maybe he did send someone there, and maybe they found out that Hamilton wasn't there, or he was there. It doesn't, like, it's that ambiguity once again. But it's important to set up the fact that Silver did in fact send someone to go and find out. So we know that this place is in fact real. It is a place that Silver discovered and investigated, and that is important groundwork to lay in order to pull off the ambiguity of the ending. The thing that makes me feel like that it could be real, that the main bit of evidence that makes me feel like it could just be Flint being delivered there, is that when he's taken there, we have the other pirates who are working with Silver actively taking there. Largely Redbeard, Hans is there, and he's delivering him there personally. You could see that as a metaphor for them delivering him to, like, purgatory or whatever, but Silver isn't there, which is a bit weird, and I feel like if you were to be delivering someone to purgatory or the afterlife, the person who killed that person would be there, like, symbolically delivering them there, and Silver isn't there from what I can tell. He's not in those shots. It just feels like to me it comes off as like they delivered Flint there because, like, Silver couldn't bear to watch as his friend is imprisoned here. Even though he gets to reunite him, it still, as I say, sucks that he has to be held under guard there. So for me, there is enough evidence to piece together that it's what actually is going on. Or maybe it just boils down to the fact that after all this time watching this show, watching Flint's journey, I just want there to be some sort of optimism there at the end. And maybe it just comes down to that. And I don't want Flint and Silver's relationship to have gotten to the point where Silver is perfectly okay with killing him. I feel like there is a natural desire for that, for us to all sort of be like, oh, but we love the tragedy of it, or we love the downfall of it, also we want to believe that that's what actually happened. And I do actively feel like I'm fighting off those temptations to believe that that is the case, because, you know, Moody and Atmosphere and downfall of friendships are like compelling stories, but ultimately I want that optimistic ending to be true. And I mean optimistic in the sense of not just the fact that Flint is reunited with Hamilton, but also I want to believe that Silver couldn't bring himself to kill him. That's sort of the main thing, because romance is true in my head, and I feel like Silver hopefully was like, no, I'm not going to kill this guy who I've come to care for like I have. I'm going to do the best I can for him, and I will lose him in the process still, but I will do what I can to find some peace for him. Not in a way where I have to kill him, hopefully. That's just me. People feel free to disagree with me on that. That's absolutely fine. That is the purpose of the ending of the show, is pretty much designed for people to disagree about what happened. And when I say that's what I choose to believe, I don't discredit anyone who thinks that Silver shot him and that's how it ends, and that's how Silver feels he has to find Flint's peace for him, is just by effectively putting him out of his misery. That's, like, I don't discredit that. I think that is just as likely to have been a thing that happened at the end. Let's look at what all you have to say about Black Sails, shall we? Okay, let's start with Alex Utopia. Enjoyed your reaction? Thank you very much. As you probably go by now, the creators came out after the show ended and said that Delivery wrote an ending that can be interpreted in one of two ways. The birds flying away in the forest as if there was a shot, and dreamlike quality of the lighting, and those shots of Flint meeting Thomas. In a way, the ending reveals who the audience is. I, for example, firmly believe that Silver killed Flint. He's sort of the villain of Treasure Island and has always been weak like that, even when he was strong. And you know what, Alex? That's pretty much exactly what I'm thinking. Like, I feel like the ending is there to determine you as an audience member what you choose to believe and all of that stuff. That's basically what I was just saying. But yeah, I fully agree with you. It does feel like it's an ending designed to have the audience in one or two minds, and you're going to settle where you fall, kind of thing. At the end of the day, I feel like I have chosen the optimist in myself to believe the good thing has happened, but the pessimist side of me still believes that the other option is very viable. So yeah, completely agree with you on that. HNCS 2006, as the writer said, the distance between Marty and Silver will be the closest they'll ever be, aka not close. That was something that did interest me in the ending shot of the two of them being so far apart, and it was kind of, again, another level of ambiguity in terms of what their relationship is there at the end. But you're right, I did feel like the fact that they were so far apart was a symbolic way of showing that maybe they'll talk again, maybe they'll be on some level, but there'll always be a distance between the two of them that can't be repaired. That was my reading of it, and it seems like the writers were on board with my thinking. No, it seems like that was put by design. That seems like a good idea. So vindication for me on there, I suppose. SKH, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing anything, but my take on Marty approaching John in the end is she could have walked all the way up the hill, but she didn't. She made her way to him, but there's still distance between them, so ultimately who's going to close the gap? In my opinion, John still didn't make out the best. First place win belongs to Captain Jack Rackham, his partner Anne Bonny, and her partner Max, because in saving Flint and Marty, he lost them both. Most of the walrus crew are dead, and so he doesn't have any of them either. You can tell in the convo he had with Marty that he didn't anticipate such a result, but hey, it is what it is. Lol. I'd be interested in a wrap-up Q&A video for sure. Well, here we are. Yeah, again, it's definitely that ambiguity, but I agree with the Jack Rackham and Max. Like, they ultimately win, but do they? That's kind of my thinking of it. Like, they definitely, in that moment, they've won. They get, Jack gets to be a pirate captain with Anne, who what he always wanted. Max gets to run Nassau, but it's all with compromise, right? That's the thing. It's all happening with compromise. Like, Max, truly, she wants to be the ruler of Nassau, but she also wants to be the face of that ruler. That's what she really desires, but she has to conceive that someone else has to be the face ruling it, because the world just won't accept her, which is tragic to my mind. Again, it's kind of what Flint was fighting against, that someone like her should be able to rule Nassau or be like a mayor of a town or whatever, despite whatever your background might be. And there is a tragic nature to their win there. And I mean, spoilers again, well, not really spoilers because it's history, but Woodes Rogers at the end of the show is sort of like, he goes down as history as this guy who sucks. He sucks, but I believe, based on some research, that Woodes Rogers actually comes back like a phoenix from the ashes and is responsible for Jack Rackham's hanging eventually in history. I believe that's right. Don't correct me if I'm wrong on that. But if you know that, and as I did my research, and you re-watch that moment of him, like, watching his affidavits being written up and like how he's going to go down in history, you can sort of see the anger there, and you can sort of see like this guy's going to have a vendetta against Jack Rackham. And if you know the history, you eventually know where that goes. And again, it's like, okay, is this happy? Is this a happy ending? In this moment, it's a happy ending, but there's still a lot of time in history to go, so maybe not. Here we have Charlie Ryan, a regular commenter. Nice to see you, Charlie. But this is a big one, so bear with me. I always call the ending a quiet tragedy. The longer it sits with you, the more tragic it becomes. Flint and Marty might have changed the world, except for the one person they both loved and trusted betrayed them. Flint's fate is intentionally ambiguous. We know Silver can spin a tale, but we also know he can be honest when it benefits him too. Which one was it when he comes to Flint? It comes up to each viewer to decide for themselves if they believe Silver or not. Absolutely, that is correct. Objectively, the correct answer. Ironically, Flint may have the happiest ending here. He's with Thomas again, either in this life or the next. True that. Charles Vane died in vain, ultimately, as did Teach. Yeah, that kind of sucks. Like, when you really think about it, like the whole Vane sacrifice when you're watching it in the moment, it's like, oh god, at least he's dying for a cause. He's really sticking it, like, you know, compared to where he was at the end. But then when you get to the finale, it's like, oh Jesus, like he didn't die for anything in the end. Like, it didn't change anything. The systems are still in place. Yes, people have these vague happy endings like I was talking about earlier, but yeah, it does suck when you think about it. Mardi had her righteous cause sold out from under her. I think it's ambiguous if she forgives him or not. She didn't look very happy or forgiving in that final scene. I agree. I personally believe the camera turned away too soon and missed her drop kicking his ass off the cliff. Entirely viable. That could have happened, and you know, that maybe he damaged his leg even further. History is not on the side of Jack and Anna Max yet. This is exactly what I was talking about. The only person who prospers again would be Woodes Rogers. Billy destroyed himself, and Silver is destined for the events of Treasure Island. I love Flint's line about pirates becoming monsters and the stories told to children, because Treasure Island is a story written for children, narrated by a child, in which Silver is the villain. Absolutely correct. So poetic. I've really enjoyed your reactions. Thank you very much. That's nice to hear. I'd love a wrap-up video. On a funny note, I love how the show in season 1 has us like Flint threw Billy off the boat, that bastard, to season 4 where we're like Flint threw Billy off the boat. Woohoo! Yeah, absolutely. Like, again, playing off these sort of ambiguous endings, and like I was just saying, the actual history of what happens to Jack and all that stuff. Like, it's very in the moment happiness, and if you know the history, you know that it's not going to last, which is ultimately also quite tragic. But it also does, with that, obviously this is a fiction, but it brings up the idea of, if Flint was allowed to wage his war, what would the differences have been? Would they have all died in this war? Would they have ultimately found a happier place in their lives? Or all of that stuff, like, it's thrown up into the air and for you to just sort of think about. And again, it comes up to interpretation, but I feel like, you know, in me, I believe that Flint and Mardi, if they fought that war, that yes, it would have been destructive in some ways. Yes, people could have died during it, but you know, that's war. But it could have led to something better, and maybe history might have been rewritten. It's all fiction, and it's its own thing, but it's an interesting thing to sort of think about, and just the ideas behind it. In the replies to Charlie's comment, there's actually an interesting point that I did want to make, which I completely forgot about, but thank you for bringing this back up, so I remembered it, from Amy saying, beautifully said, for me the ending is beautiful yet tragic too. I'm of the belief that Silver doesn't kill Flint just because he uses the same lines with Mardi about waiting a day, a month, a year. I feel like you say that to whom you love, and I do think he loved Flint, but ultimately Silver is selfish, as he always has been from the beginning, even though I totally get it. He's selfish and tries to get a happy ending for all, and ends up with nobody truly happy, even himself. Flint is with Thomas, but they have to live in the shadows. Mardi understands his love, but can't forgive, and Silver misses his friends. Love and the sea from up on a hilltop where he and Flint practice together. Yeah, like, again, that I did want to bring up that a day, a month, a year thing. It is really interesting that he has to say that to both of them, and it could just be something he's saying to sort of symbolize these are the two people he cares about the most, but it also feeds into the ambiguity of the ending, because it's like, well, did he say that to Flint and it worked? He was able to convince Flint, hey, let's go, I'm going to take you somewhere, we can sort this out, and obviously he resisted, and that's why he tries that same line again on Mardi to try and fix that relationship, because it worked with Flint. Like, you know, you could read into that in many ways, but I ultimately agree it is an important just through line for Silver to show the audience that these are the two people he cares about the most, and he is losing both of them because of his actions. And yeah, that's the important thing, I think, to take away from it. Again, I will apologize if I get this name wrong, but R.T.I. Canty says, but they say that they're happy about the next reaction series, which I'll get into in a minute. But I'm glad you're looking forward to it. But also, you're an amazing reactor to Black Sails. Thank you very much. As others have said in the comments, the ending is intentionally ambiguous as per the creator's words. A story is true, a story is untrue. As time passes, it matters less and less. The stories we want to believe, those are the ones that survive. Mardi was there at the end, but at a certain and clear distance, and I think they put her there also because Long John Silver famously still has a black wife in Treasure Island. But in their comment that's really interesting is, regarding what I personally believe the real ending was. I've changed my mind at the end of different watching sessions. The first time I finished Black Sails, I instinctively wanted to believe that Flint was alive. At the end of my second watch through, I had a gut feeling that Flint was killed there on the island, and I believe that. I think I still believe he was killed. It feels more right to me personally regarding how I perceive the story and the characters. By the way, rewatching the show is really a treat because you notice many different themes, details, character behaviours. Thank you for the kind words about the reaction series. It does, it's nice to know that I'm providing commentary to this show and the discussion of the show, rather than simply just watching it. I feel like I am contributing to the conversation about it, which is nice to know. But again, what you're talking about is that idea of just audience interpretation of the characters and how that ending plays into that, which is, yeah, I agree with that. And like I say, I personally feel like, yes, it could feel like the more natural conclusion to events if Silver had killed him there on the island. And it's this weird thing about that where I feel like that feels like the most logical conclusion. That feels like the one that should make the most sense, but something in my gut just really wants to believe that the good person who is hiding within Silver's selfishness and desires kind of can't let that happen, so he ultimately decides to try and reunite Flint with Hamilton in an actual physical plane existence, not the afterlife. So that's kind of where I sit upon my first watching of it. And again, it plays into that idea, like I was saying, with the Muppets version of Treasure Island, that moment where Silver protects Jim, and it feels like that. Again, I think it's important to remember with Silver's character that, at least to me, there is this kernel of a good person there. It's just the selfishness, the opportunist in him, and the survivalist in him is always battling against that. And his wants and desires at the end of the Black Sails, at least, are he wants to protect and help the people he loves, but he's kind of doing it from a selfish place, and he ends up losing them all because of that. But upon my first viewing, my optimism is taking charge of the steering wheel, and I still personally think that Flint goes to retire with Hamilton because, I don't know, that's the mood I'm in at the moment, apparently. Cat BFS says, this was a great React series. I loved following along. I feel like you understand the show really well and understand Flint. Like you said, the ending is definitely a tragedy, whether you believe Flint and Thomas reunited or you believe Silver is lying. Silver's relationship with Flint and Mardy are forever broken, and there is no hope for Mardy and Flint's revolution. It's tragic that Silver's desperation to preserve his close relationships, is what destroyed them in the end. Despite that, I love that the ending doesn't vilify either side or wanting the revolution and change the world versus wanting to quietly live with the people you love. Yeah, that's another really important thing. Like, in the moment between Flint and Silver where they're arguing, obviously in my reaction you can see I say that Silver, he's making good points. They're just not ones I agree with in that moment, because I think I could see the angle he was playing from felt a little selfish, but I understood it. I understood that desire to just want to protect the ones that you love. Whereas in the moment of watching that, I was with Flint, but the world at the moment is shit, and people like Flint and Mardy and everyone else like them, the excluded, as the show opens with, are treated horribly in the grand scheme of things, and that's why I'm sort of with Flint in that moment. But you're right, it does a good job at, I could easily see people going no, I'm with Silver on this. That's what's brilliant about that. And I ages ago, way back in the early days of this reaction series, I definitely felt the idea that the show was pushing for, it wants you to like all these characters, so when we set them against each other, you're going to have a real hard time choosing your side in these battlegrounds. And yeah, it was the perfect way to sort of close the show out with that happening, where you're like, I understand all of this, I understand both sides, but it's a personal preference at the end of the day where you end up going with it. But yeah, thank you for all the comments over the whole reaction series, not just this one, but thank you for leaving comments here for me to read out and to sort of springboard off of. But doing this series has been a lot of fun. I feel like it's on multiple levels. It's been a journey, both with just going through every episode, analyzing it, talking about it, getting your comments from, or what you thought about it. All that stuff has been a journey. But on a more personal note, in terms of doing these videos and sort of getting into YouTube and doing stuff, like I've been doing this for just over a year now, like consistently doing reactions for that amount of time, and I feel like Black Sails has been a real like at times it's felt like a bit of a challenge, like on a personal level, because I'll let you in on the secret is that when you sit down to record these things, I never know how it's going to go, if it's going to be good, if people are going to like it, and all those anxieties just come racing to the surface. And in terms of being on camera and doing the performance of it all, I suppose, like you're trying to be entertaining, you're trying to be informative, you're trying to analyze and be well spoken and all of this stuff. And I feel like going through Black Sails has really helped with my personal confidence in terms of making these videos, because yes, I've done other TV shows before Black Sails. I've done Firefly, I've done Loki, and those were good starting points. But to do a show that was multiple seasons long, that follow characters in complex ways, and all of that sort of stuff, and being able to make videos consistently week after week, and people seem to like them, and it seemed to go down well, it instilled a bit more confidence in my ability to make these videos, and just other videos in general, not just reaction videos, but whatever videos I might sort of put my mind to. It's been a lot of personal growth in terms of the creative spirit in myself making this stuff, and and I thank all of you for coming along on that journey and to continue encouraging it. That it's a really nice thing to see that, and like I said earlier, like it feels nice that it's not, these videos haven't just been coming across as Guy watches TV show. It's been coming across as Guy watches show, is analyzing it, and is adding to the conversation about that show and the ideas of the storytelling and all that kind of stuff. So that's been really gratifying on a personal level, and it's been a fun thing to go through. But yeah, this is Black Sails. This is it. We're wrapping it up. This is the wrap-up video, unless one day we get that Treasure Island redux or remake, or the more like actual word for it, adaptation using the Black Sails Foundation. That's it. That is the end of this journey. It's sad. It is sad that this had to come to an end. It feels like only yesterday I started this, but it's been quite some time. But now it's time to move on to the next thing and hope that I can deliver the same kind of conversation and all that stuff with what happens next. As some of you know, we are going to be moving on to Hannibal. That is the next live action show we're going to go through. And, I'm not going to be comparing Hannibal to Black Sails, because I feel like, it's unfair to do that with any show, let alone a show as good as Black Sails, and it's going to be a very different beast. But boy, I feel like doing Black Sails this early on in terms of like reaction series, like it's up there, and it's going to be a hard thing to replace on that level. But I'm looking forward to going through Hannibal. I'm going to have just as much fun, I feel, going through that, talking about it, analysing it, all that good stuff. But on top of that, eventually at some point soon, you're going to start seeing Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's going to be coming out on the channel as a reaction series as well. And, same things apply. Hopefully it's as entertaining and analytical and all that stuff that Black Sails has been. And yeah, that's something I've already started recording as well. So I've kind of got an idea of where we're going with that. So you will start seeing those dropping soon when I actually decide what day I want to put it on and, find my pattern of recording, editing, and uploading. So yeah, that's coming soon. Again, I have to say thank you for coming on this journey. I hope you enjoyed it. It seems like most of you have done. But yeah, that is the end. I hope to see you with the other videos that I make. I hope to see you in the comment sections and all that good stuff. If you want to join the community in other ways, there is a Discord server. There's a link in the description to join over there and be in the forums. There is a general chat. There's a Black Sails chat. We haven't got very many people over there at the Discord server. Thank you to those who have joined and started the ball rolling on that. But hey, we'd love to see more people go over there. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, liking the videos, all that stuff to help the channel keep growing and moving forward. It helps out a lot, and I appreciate it a great deal. But yeah, that is the end of the Black Sails journey. It's been a one hell of a ride. But yeah, I hope to see you all sticking around with everything else, and I will catch you there. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Lets me know you liked it. Helps it get seen by more people, all that good stuff. Also, consider subscribing so you don't miss any future videos. Also, there's social links down below. But for now, thank you for watching this. I will catch you on the next one.